Nigeria Info.
If you're still asking what the best way to start your day is, well, you heard it. It's with the morning Crossfire. And here we are checking out the stories that made it to the front of the pages of the newspapers today. You're welcome to the show. This show started at 6 a.m. If you're just joining us, well, don't worry. It's still in time for lots. For the next 30 minutes, thereabout, we'll be looking at these stories. And we're live on Facebook, also on YouTube at Nigeria Info FM. You can watch us there. Leave us your comment on whichever headlines you find interesting. You can also reach us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. You're welcome. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I am Sheriff Quadry. Gbolahan Olojede joins us this morning on the program. Gbolahan, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. Happy to be here again.
This morning we have the papers on the table as usual. The Guardian is here. The Punch is also on the table. The Vanguard, Daily Independence, Daily Sun, as well as Daily Trust. Those are the papers that we're looking at this morning.
All right, let's kickstart with this story on the front page of The Guardian. The Guardian is our media partner. We have this one. Banner headline here. Senators fault Buhari's budgets. Vow overhaul. Lament higher debt servicing, lower capital expenditure. Say projection on increased oil production is flawed. Fiscal plan is focused. APC chieftain insists. You find all of these on the front page of The Guardian. It's also the banner headline on The Punch. National Assembly, LCCI, experts knock federal government's 2020 budget. Funding challenges are imminent, says professionals. Senate reps begin debate on document on the front page of The Punch. Move it over to the Vanguard newspaper. It's the banner here also. 2020 budget projections unrealistic, say senators. There are a number of riders to this one of the Vanguard. It's a budget of taxation, says minority leader. Debt service percentage high. GDP ratio too small. Capital expenditure paltry, says majority leader. Reps shut down move to stop debate on estimates. All of this going on the front page of the Vanguard.
You have much more here on the Daily Independent newspaper. 2020 budget divides PDP, APC senators. Rider, reps, speakers shut down opposition. Daily Independent newspaper. From Daily Sun, this morning, 2020 budget, senators knock Buhari's projections. Rider, fight insecurity, hardship with appropriation. Can, tells Buhari. Daily Sun for you. And moving on quickly now to the Daily, I think that will be the Nation newspaper. That's right. Senators, reps begin budget debate. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Can we debate this and throw politics outside and just look at the budget? The reps are already divided along party lines.
That's where the real problem is. What we have at hand transcends parties. And I just hope that these people can come together and focus on the real job to be done. Not that they have a lot of latitude like that.
Right.
If you ask me, Nigeria by now should be doing an annual budget of like 150 trillion. So there's a major problem with the size of the cake that we have on the table. And that cake has not increased. There is no way to cut and dice that paltry budget that we have on the table. That is the truth. No matter how they... Okay, somebody say, oh, we're complaining. One of the NAS members was talking about this debt service. Yes, there's debt service. So what do we do about it? We have to pay. It is an obligation. So there's nothing anybody... They are called non-discretionary expenditures. You don't have a discretion over it. There's nothing you can do. You're owing it. It gets worse when you remember that there's also a deficit in the current year's budget, which means we are even going to borrow the more.
Right.
So we must totally reinvent this budget. Like I did yesterday. If you translate our budget over the last 10 years, you just try to put it on in dollar terms. The size of the cake has not increased. The people are continuing to grow. Our problems have continued to multiply, but the cake did not increase.
A lawmaker called it budget of taxation. Is this true?
Because it's going to be driven by taxation. If you look at the oil component, it has reduced dramatically.
Is that what should drive the budget? Taxation.
taxation.
When we don't even have effective taxing mechanism in this country, there are so many loopholes in our tax collection drive.
I think maybe that is why the president also came to the table with a finance bill. If you look at the details of what that finance bill was meant to achieve, one of the key things was a tax reform. So he has in recent time also mentioned the fact that a lot of money resides in the hands of very few.
Right.
He mentioned specifically in that presentation the issue of regressive taxation. Regressive taxation is when you tax everybody, like you tax them the same way, forgetting the fact that it is the people that earn the more that should bear more of the burden.
Right.
So if you have a regressive taxation regime, there's a problem. So there's elements of regressive taxation in our system, which that bill is also meant to help to correct. So it's a budget of taxation because the truth is we must migrate away from oil.
Right.
So we need to look at other things, and taxation is one of them.
But it doesn't look like we're migrating away from oil because we're still largely depending on crude production. It has increased, the projection that the president made. And I'm wondering, shouldn't we be focusing on,
I don't know what that newspaper meant by it increased, because it did not actually increase. What we had last year was 2.3 million barrels per day. This year is about 2.18. So that is not an increase, if you ask me.
Did we meet up with the 2.3 million barrels?
Those were jokes.
We never have.
We just throw the figures all around.
Never have.
I don't believe that it is impossible for us to do it. But the structural changes we need to make in that industry to be able to achieve that, we have not done it. It's not going to come by magic.
Is it also possible to strengthen these by fixing our refineries? And a statement of intent, should be in the budget that says this is the amount that will at least fix one fully functional refinery this year.
I'm not sure you want to hear my views about refinery.
That chuckle says a lot.
Ask me about refineries, I will say sell them. Find that courage to do it.
We've never been able to sell right. It's not in our history
to sell right.
We've been selling stuff, but we don't ever sell to the right people who can do the job. So selling might not be,
there's no big deal about selling these things.
In Nigeria, it is.
But you see, we sold one before. I would have loved the situation in which that particular one was not taken back, because it was taken back. Obasanjo just sold one. Do you remember? It was taken back. Now, if we had not taken it back, we will at least be able to say, government, you had 3. We sold 1. What are the performances?
Right.
But I'm not one of those people who have enough faith to believe that what we have not been able to do right in 3 decades, overnight, we will start doing it right.
But if you look at the power sector, where we've also, tried to do the same, it's not working.
It's not working. But
8 of the discos have been given yellow cards just days ago.
And just yesterday, we're hearing that some of the discos, their licenses might just be thrown.
They've been given yellow cards.
They're not meeting certain terms.
They're not.
But you see, irrespective of the flaws with power, I can assure you that we have moved slightly by virtue of that privatization. I once worked in a major city, however flawed. In a major city in Nigeria, one of the major cities in Nigeria. I was in a bank then, and I was like, oh no, where are the utility bills? They say you're looking for utility bills. Nobody pays NEPA here now. They don't even have.
But the problem was that the government structure was not strengthened. I mean, we've tried the private in the power sector. It's not working either. Don't we? Isn't it that we're also always making excuses for government being unable to do what it should do?
They cannot do it because they're not shown it. Look at.
The private sector has not shown that it can do it either.
The private sector has been known to deliver in several sectors. If they have not gotten to that point in power, give them the time.
It's because we're giving to the wrong people.
We've done it with communication, and you agree with me that we transform communication in this country.
Right, I agree on that note.
Yeah.
Buhari inaugurates economic team, urges reliable data. This is on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
That's right.
And the nation, Buhari, World Bank, IMF data on Nigeria is unreliable. President, if you're, I mean, I practically couldn't help myself from rolling my eyes.
I saw that.
President urges Economic Council to generate statistics. Why do we have the National Bureau of Statistics again? Remind me that we have the IMF cautioning CBN over loan policy, multiple exchange rates. Let me quote one of the things the president said. Some of the statistics we get relating to Nigeria are wild estimates and bear little relation to the facts on ground. Big question is, why don't we have our own stats?
Well,
and the NBS has quite a number of stats.
And they have been trying.
And they have been. I use their statistics.
As a matter of fact.
So what's the president?
Now, there are several other areas of data that we have not invested in those things. If you don't invest, they don't come by magic.
That's right.
People who gather data, invest in it. We are not even sure of the population of Nigeria today as we speak.
We don't know.
We've not had a census for more than 10 years. So who is to blame? If you're going to have a census, for example, it's the nation that has to be.
13 years.
13 years.
And there are global standards to make sure that you have, some reliable data.
Records of death and birth is a problem in this country. And that's why you have people who are dead being given ministerial appointment or given a cabinet or public sector appointments because nobody even knew they are dead.
Right.
And we've had that before. It's on record.
Yeah.
So what can the Economic Council do? I mean, they were inaugurated just recently. Is statistics their thing to do?
It's not. It's a very unfair expectation.
I mean, how can they do that?
If we want data, whatever we need to do to strengthen the agency of government that is responsible for that, let us do that so that this gentleman can focus on helping us with these issues.
Well, the president of the front page of Daily Independent here is saying that lack of reliable data is impeding development.
That's no news now.
He knows how important this is.
Then he should reach out to the NBS.
Let's put the investment in the right quarters to do it. It is not Rwanda that will go and start counting how many people you have in your country for
exactly.
you. So it was honestly, I was embarrassed by that comment. I don't think it was something we should be putting in the public space.
Indeed. And we must
those gentlemen can do a lot more and let them focus in those areas where the competencies are, not to ask them to go and start gathering data for you.
We know these guys.
How would they even do it?
We know these gentlemen as technocrats who believe in data, all of them, because they wouldn't have gotten to where they are right now without functioning with data. So what happens if they want to take a decision and they go over to IMF or the World Bank or some international organization that they know that their data is reliable? The president says it's not. And the president says it's not. Because but where are we on this one now? Because
if you ask me, this is a personal theory now. The reason why presidents seem to be going in that direction is that it's as if upon all of these, things are not really changing. Are these people really saying the truth?
Shouldn't he then be checking inwards?
But when you look
rather than lashing out at the World Bank and IMF,
as a country of 200 million people, we are still doing a annual budget of 10 trillion naira. A South Africa of 60 million people is already cruising on 40 trillion naira equivalent. Right. So there is something deeply wrong, and it is not. It's not just about data.
We hope that this Economic Council will be able to tell the president all of this and that he would listen. And I hope that they're not being saddled with the responsibility of getting data, because they absolutely cannot do that. Senate proposes 5-year jail term for school sexual offenders. This bill is coming back up. It's on the front page of the Punch. It's also here on the Nation newspaper, similar headline. Unilag's panel to probe Randy Dons. They now tagged Randy. Oh, goodness. The Guardian, Senate considers 5-year jail term for lecturers over sexual assault. Okay.
It's here, Daily Sun newspaper front page. Sex for admission. Unilag raises panel to try lecturers. Ryder ASU welcomes reports on cases of members' ethical professional misconduct. Daily Sun newspaper with that story. Moving on quickly now to the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. Sex for grade video. Unilag sets a panel to probe lecturers. The Deputy Senate President Ovie Omagigi was in the news yesterday and this morning. He said that the sexual harassment prohibition law, if it becomes an act, it will even punish administrators, heads of institutions, if it's been found that lecturers have been abusing students, and these lecturers have not been punished for a certain period of time. But isn't it important for the accuser to prove her case or his case, however it may have been,
anything that will involve jail term and all that stuff means it will go to the court.
Yeah, but you need to
and
provide
in the
evidence.
court, evidence is the only thing they believe in.
Right.
You have to show.
It's not. I felt like I
felt
saw.
like,
I think.
it doesn't work
However,
that
one
way.
of the things ASU said in 2016, when the 8th Senate passed this bill, they fought against this bill and they said it was discriminatory because actually we do have a law. Violence Against Persons Act, which also deals with the same issues of violence and sexual harassment, through which if you report the case based on that law or act, then you can prosecute whoever. So they're asking, why do we need a special
Second law.
law for educators specifically? ASU and also, educators have said in institutions they have models through which you can report. Maybe not effective, but if they find evidence, they can prosecute. Our
Right.
correspondent in Port Harcourt asked questions from ASU guys there, and they said, well, if you have anybody who's been sexually harassed, let them come to us with evidence and we will prosecute.
I remember, I think it was Fashola who scrapped. There was a law that has to do with marriage, something about divorce marriage and what rights. And they found out that law has been in Lagos State for over 2 decades. Not a single suit has been brought under it. So it was essentially a useless piece of legislation. It was scrapped. It was removed from the books. Now, if there are laws in our books and nobody is seeking rights under them, or maybe it is the ignorance of the fact that they even exist that is the problem.
I think it's the ignorance.
In which case, then, we need to do a sensitization. We need to get it into the awareness of the people
Right.
so they know that you have this law and you can sue under it. One of the first classes I had studying outside of Nigeria was actually one of the big topic there was sexual harassment in the workplace. Yes, because I had to know it, so I was taught.
So you know how to report it, exactly what to do if it happens.
Exactly. So it could even be part of their entry-level classes when
Right,
people come
right,
into the university. That you
right.
teach them their rights,
Right.
what they need to know, and if somebody is abusing them, what they need to do.
But many of these students don't have trust in the management. One of them online said when one of her lecturers harassed her, she went to the dean. And guess what the dean said to her? Can you blame the man? Can you blame the man? Leave my office because you are even tempting me as you are. Even I am getting tempted as I'm looking at you.
That's even
Seriously.
mild. The fear of being victimized is
Yes.
another thing that students face, but because you don't know which side of the divide the person you're reporting the other lecturer
Correct.
to
Right.
falls. So how can we make it easy for students to be able to give information to the authorities in schools?
Maybe we should have CCTV
It's-
cameras in all of these places, in the lecturers' offices, and we
Maybe.
should have CCTV cameras.
Maybe where there will be places where there could be cameras, there will be places where privacies are required. Privacy or whatever you call it.
It's
You
okay.
know.
Yeah, fine.
So, but what is important is once we have decided that this is the direction we need to go and that we need to teach these people, when you have things like that in place, you also tell them that when you are not getting response in this way,
Right.
you need to go in
Yeah.
this other route.
Right.
And those are the kind of level of awareness we need to get to.
I
So
think
the
you
kind
made
of-
an important
yeah.
point that it should be part of orientation.
Yeah.
When students
Orientation.
come into school, let them know how they can channel their
How they
grievances.
can channel their grievances.
I think that's the way to go. There's a story also here about schooling on the front page of the Vanguard. Taraba University expels students for criticizing governor on Facebook. I think I saw this story. The student was actually rusticated for a Facebook post
It was
where
some time ago.
where he talked about things happening in his school.
So why these students
Exactly.
go to court?
Don't they know what to do?
Maybe they don't know. And then there should also be people in the society, in that community, who get to hear of the story and we'll do something about it.
I will take it up.
Anytime I see things like this, I just remember the likes of Ganifa Wemi and all. There are things that will always be in the public space that require someone of the right level of knowledge and understanding about what to do to take certain steps.
Guess what this boy wrote on Facebook? He said, if Governor Darius sells 7 cars in his convoy alone, he will solve the problems of Taraba State University. Governor Darius is a tested and trusted failure. The 100 days of any government shows the direction of that government, and the Darius administration has no direction. His government is the worst in the 28 years of existence of Taraba. Here is a thinking student
Is this
critical.
Is this what we call democracy, Gbolahan? Is this an example of democracy?
That is what it is.
I mean,
we like the idea of democracy.
But
actually, when it comes to the practice of it, we have a problem. That's why you see governors saying somebody is doing terrorism in
for speaking against what they're doing.
Felony.
All sort of things all over the
getting
whole
out of
place.
hand.
Do you know how many times they harass Trump?
No, Trump
on TV shows.
He claps back immediately. In Yoruba, they'll say, he'll give you your response back. He doesn't mind, going back and forth with you. The number of times Trump has been dragged on Twitter. Sometimes he retweets some of those and he replies.
He cannot resist it. I mean, there are a lot of people who would have been like, okay, he's one of those
just
commenters.
Look over.
But he cannot.
Yes. Let's move on to our next story. 30,000 naira minimum wage. FG moves to prevent workers' strike. Minister holds emergency meeting with labor leaders. And that's from the Daily Sun newspaper. The countdown is on, From the Daily Independent newspaper, minimum wage labor leaders FG meet over consequential adjustment. That's a Daily Independent newspaper.
It's also on The Nation, The Guardian, and The Punch.
It's unfortunate. Quite unfortunate.
October 31st is the deadline.
We've been on this for how long have we been on this matter? Well, it seems as if there is money.
I'm thinking that we might not just get to start paying that money until when the 2020 budget is passed.
Maybe the government is stalling for that.
Yeah, maybe. It's possible. But if they are stalling for that, honestly, I think I have a weird approach to engagement.
Right.
I think we should put some things on the table.
Right.
I said, these are the realities of the matter. It's either we let some people go or we have to go and borrow. Should we go and borrow? Because everybody is saying our debt is already too large. Should we go and borrow to start paying salaries?
Mm-hmm.
Or can we wait till 2020? These are the facts. This is where it is. The money is provided for in 2020. And everybody can probably struggle with it a little bit and then come to the reality.
But they will know what's going on.
I know what is going on. You can't be playing games.
But the game is on while the time is ticking. October 31st will be here before we blink if we have a national shutdown.
On the front page of Daily Trust newspaper, World Mental Health Day, rehab centers grounded as 60 million Nigerians suffer mental disorder.
All over the whole place. The increasing suicide is part of the evidences of what is going on in the mental space. And we don't even have the practitioners. It's another major problem.
No, we don't. We have about 250 of them.
250 doctors. One to a million.
1 million. Less than 250 psychiatric doctors in the whole of Nigeria.
We don't know how many of them
there is an update. There is an update, Wemimo. What are you saying here?
Oh, there are 200. Now there are 200.
Dr. Kike told us then that, it was 250 that by the time she comes back,
she was sure
that it would have reduced.
Many of them are leaving.
They're leaving because they're in high demand in other societies where they are well paid. A friend of mine is in the U.S. He moved to the U.S. as a psychiatrist.
While the Yaba Psychiatric Hospital was shut down for months because the doctors were on strike. We'll talk about that at 8 o'clock. One of them is here. We don't take them seriously. We need them, but we don't take this issue seriously.
And the people with mental ailments are all around us.
Yes, they are.
They're in our faces.
In our homes, relations. Even people we get to see every day that are close to us.
And remember that if you have a mental health issue, you can get treated, you can get help. So suicide is not the way to go. The theme for this year is suicide prevention. We'll talk about that some more at 8 o'clock.
Looking at this headline here on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper, a quite interesting story here. North will remove any president who attempts to implement 2014 confab report. That's credited to Junaid Mohammed.
This guy has just been.
I think they should stop giving him press time.
Sincerely.
There's no
my
point.
goodness.
He's as unstable.
Oh, the things he says.
And the things he said, it's as if he's always looking for trouble.
So why are they printing
it's
what he's
supposed to be
saying?
an elder statesman. It's annoying.
He said something, yes. I can't even repeat what he said on air because it just doesn't make any sense.
He go around saying all sort of things. He goes around saying all sort of things.
Sincerely, I would advise that we shouldn't be paying him any close attention and not be echoing what he says.
Exactly. The press should blank him out.
It says so many things that could destabilize the country.
He should call his own close association.
He said. Let me read voice. He said those saying that the 2014 National Conference Bill should be implemented. Have they read the report? Has anyone of us who attended the conference told Nigerians what aspect we want to be implemented? I was at the 2014 National Conference. I represented Kano State, which is one of the two biggest states in the country. I've been involved in several conferences in the past, and even after the 2014 conference, we also had another one here in Kano concerning the state. As far as I'm concerned, that 2014 confab is a fraud.
I've had so many eye-rolling moments on this show today. I can't understand this. Really?
It's a very controversial fella.
Oh, please. On our way out, on the front page of the Punch, federal government pays P&ID 250,000 pounds court-ordered costs. We've paid it now. And it's another story here on the Vanguard. We can do without Senate, says Fayemi. Explains how governors spend security votes. Oh, I would like to see this. As Italy cuts number of senators by 37% to save costs.
It's an irony that a country that budgets 10 trillion naira, 10 trillion for 200 million people, has such an expensive National Assembly.
Yeah.
It is inconceivable.
Right.
It is. In some
I'm lost for words, really.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Unfortunately,
they are the lawmakers.
I saw a memo. I just saw a memo from one of our editors in the newsroom this morning about a particular state governor having 3 wives and having special assistants.
That's how they spend our money.
For each of the wives.
Which is one of the reasons why people don't trust them. So if you say, I don't have money, you don't have money.
What do you mean you don't have money? What do you mean you can't pay me 30,000 naira? I mean, you're spending so much money. Guys, we need to wrap up the front pages. Thank you all for joining. We have comments on. Oh, goodness. Facebook, thank you all for joining. Let's take one from Mark Ogu, who says, let the law on sexual harassment be extended to all persons in positions of authority and not just lecturers.
Fiduciary relationships.
There are laws that you could explore if you have sexual harassment issues. It says it is not only lecturers that are guilty of this evil. Let's fight this menace holistically on both the public and private sectors, and I totally agree with you.
Awareness about that law is important.
Absolutely. You need to know what to do. And there are so many NGOs on, domestic violence and sexual harassment. Right. If you go online, just do a quick search, people. Information is available. Many of them would walk you through the process of what to do. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. Gbolahan has been with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
When we come back from the break, we'll be visiting Kano and Port Harcourt, where correspondents are standing by as we talk about World Mental Health Day. We also have a doctor joining us live in the studio to talk about this. One of the 200 scarce psychiatric doctors.
At least one is here with us. One is giving us attention.
Absolutely. Join us for this. After the break, I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.
More talk, news and sports after this.